My concern is not that great in terms of Alberta separating. And I believe that a lot of what the Danielle Smith is facing as Premier of Alberta is from policies both from within Alberta and without Alberta. Specifically, I believe that she and her constituents are worried about the changes that may be happening to Alberta in terms of energy production and how that impacts her and her constituents. Specifically, how the change from oil and gas might be occurring to more earth-friendly. Sorry, my brain's not working right now. To more earth-friendly solutions, as it were, like solar and wind power. And I believe a lot of her constituents are probably afraid of the changes and how it will impact them.
I don't understand why there's so much hatred in Alberta. I don't think Albertans will separate. If they have a referendum, I'd be shocked. I would fight against that. But there's so much hate created, and it's got a lot to do with American influence in our political system there.
Interesting.
It's highly Americanized, and, the pipelines go south.
My real question is, so what involvement are they going to be left with within Canada? So if they're their own separate country, they no longer will hold Canadian passports. They will no longer have Canadian currency. They will no longer have the benefits of our social welfare programs, RCMP. Do they get to just separate and keep whatever part of Canada they want, or are they starting completely from scratch? That's the logic I don't understand.
Yeah, Cody, thank you so much for your call. And luckily we have someone here who can talk about some of those practicalities, like what, even as a thought exercise, what would be the implication if they did pursue separation? Eric Adams is a law professor at U of A. Yes, go ahead.
Well, Cody's exactly right. He started to create a list, and I'm sure your listeners have started to sketch out a number of others. What about the national parks? What about the Canada Pension Plan? What about the trade agreements that move resources across provinces? There's already pipelines, of course, between Alberta and BC, and the list goes on and on and on. And none of that is predetermined, and none of that is knowable. The only thing that the Supreme Court of Canada says in its secession reference is that if you end up with a positive vote for separation in a referendum, what triggers next is a duty to negotiate. All of the provinces and the federal government and Alberta have to sit down at the table and try and hash out this constitutional crisis. But it doesn't mean that a referendum creates an independent country of Alberta. And of course, First Nations peoples have already in this province said that they do not accept even the premise of separation as a starting point.
I'm going to bring an Alberta perspective to it because I've lived in Alberta for 63 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
And I'm also from the Grand Prairie area. So my two main points are going to be that Alberta politicians, going back as far as even the middle of the last century, have built their careers around demonizing central Canada and the federal government. So they're just basically singing off the same script. To me, it's baseless. Alberta, there are problems. There's no doubt about that. Not everybody is participating in our economy to the extent that they should be, but Alberta is still the most prosperous area on one of the most prosperous countries on this planet. So I think that, starting fights where they're not warranted, to me, is just not, it's just not productive.
Live in Alberta in Grand Prairie, and I've lived in Alberta since '98, originally from the Lower Mainland in Victoria. I'm not a big Danielle Smith fan, but I do like the fact that she's lowered the threshold to give people a say. I don't support I do not support separation. I think it's silly. I don't think it's a good idea. But if there's enough people that say it's a good idea, because the Calgary mayor, the Judy Gondak, I think it was, they were trying to get rid of her, and the amount of people that they had to petition was like astronomical, and it was just not possible. So if you have
it's democracy in action.
If you want to have good democracy, we got to have a say. I think people should have their say, but I don't support it. I think it's just not feasible. The cost would be too much, and I'm just not supporting it at all.
Yeah,
because we got to be. And I'm Canadian. That's me first. I'm Canadian first, and then I've lived in Alberta for a long time, but I also think I'm from BC, so. Nothing against Alberta, but if you separate, then what's your identity?